You're listening to Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry Sanderson on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Tomorrow, morning sunshine, isolated storms by afternoon, the high 95. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Inside the Locker Room with former Crimson Tide basketball coach Wimp Sanderson and his son, former SEC and ACC assistant basketball coach Barry Sanderson. It's time to take you inside the locker room on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And good morning. Welcome into the Thursday edition of Inside the Locker Room. 205-342-9904 always is the phone number, not only to get in on this show, but all the lineup here at Tide 100.9. The X accounts at Locker Room 109, at Barry Sanderson, at Wimp Sanderson 1. If you want to shoot us an email, you can do that at wimpandbarry@yahoo.com. Also on the app, download the app. You can send us an app message, a voice message on the app. Obviously, all the articles, get all the shows. So download the app to your smartphone, and you can take us with you anywhere you go. Before we get started, though, we want to thank Yellowwood. That would be pressure-treated pine from Great Southern. If you want to build the 5-star backyard, there's only one choice, and that is Yellowwood. Go to yellowwood.com, put your zip code in. You can find the dealer that is closest to you. And always remember, guys, if it doesn't have that yellow tag on it, then you certainly don't want it. Coach DeBoer had his show last night. I listened to a little bit of that, and I think the last 30 minutes, Jalen Milroe came in, and so I listened to Jalen Milroe and Coach DeBoer, and it seemed like a relaxed atmosphere. It sounded like it was full over there at Baumhauer's Wing. So no more media for Coach DeBoer, just the game at 6 o'clock on Saturday night. Good morning, Dad. How are you this morning?
I'm doing okay. Before we get started to the football lineups for the night, we'll mention the tour. So this because people are interested in that. Of course, Scheffler and Chef Lee Scotty will start 10 under, and X will start at 8 under. Bradley, who won last week, will start at 6 under. Hideki, who had a back injury last week and did not play after the first round, is starting at 7 under. Ludwig Alber, who's very good at 5 under, and Sam Burns, who I think is a prospect to win this thing, and Patrick Cantley will start at 4 under. So that will be starting today, and should be very good golf at East Lake. Missouri opens tonight, 7 o'clock on the SEC network. The other team is Arkansas. They'll play Pine Bluff at 6:30. Of course, Bobby Petrino has come back now after losing his job there several years ago as the offensive coordinator. That'll be on ESPNU. On a local basis, Alcorn will take on UAB. You have to have the ESPN Plus to get that one. That will be at 7 o'clock. So those are some games that you want to watch tonight. We're all today and tomorrow in especially today in a speculation situation as to what we're going to do. I won't pick the blue plate tomorrow. I'd rather talk about it later. Colorado says that Oregon has hacked them and got their private football information. The quarterback is going to go. I forgot where he's gone. Braves won 5-1 over the Twins. Jack State, I will mention that, is playing Coastal Carolina tonight. Not on the regular CBS, but on the CBS Sports Network. That's a 7 o'clock game. So you've got several games you can watch tonight. If you're interested in golf, you can watch that this afternoon. So we're getting started. JC will be on. It's very entertaining. And I think we'll have some excerpts from
we also got Tommy Ford in the second hour as well.
Tommy Ford is calling us at the top of the hour, I guess.
Yeah.
So we welcome your calls. If you have speculation as to about who's going to happen, where it's going to happen, who's going to win, and we need to know that. So we welcome your calls.
So I didn't realize, I guess I should have realized, when the player on each side with the green dot, only one coach has access to that player.
Yeah.
And, of course, that obviously makes sense. Coach Helton from Western Kentucky, feels like it's a little bit of an advantage when you're on the road, that you can, sometimes communication is very difficult. I think their stadium seats 23,000. So it could get loud in there at times. So it maybe allow you to kind of talk to your quarterback, settle them down, make sure you're getting everything in. You think that might help when you're on the road in loud environments in SEC games where the coach can kind of communicate talk to the quarterback or the linebacker, whoever's doing that, when things kind of get in disarray a little bit. Of course, he's only talking to one person. They got to get that out all over is that a factor at all as far as being on the road?
I think it's a factor in that you do it with your smartest guy on defense or on offense, and gives them an idea of exactly what happened in the last play and what needs to be happening on the next one real quickly. 15 seconds is all you have. If you look at college football, we're moving more and more towards pro football. We're paying people. We're getting contracts. We're doing things away from the field. We're doing things on the field. I don't know that pro football has taken over the world, but in some people's minds it has. I wish we would push towards being pro football, but to me that's sort of the way we're shoving. So if that's the way it's going to go down, I guess that's the way it's going to go down. But I would say, to answer your question, it is a benefit to the visiting team. That's a visiting benefit to the home team if they use it in the right way. So would it be the difference in the game? I don't know. Would it have made a difference in what had happened in the last play, the last couple of plays at Alabama and Michigan? I don't know. But we'll see how the communication it works and get a little bit of a feel for it. I think the officials have been involved in it, studied it, worked on it. I thought the segment that we had about officiating in the SEC was very good. I wish we could play it back, but anyway, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So anyway, Coach DeBoer obviously was saying he won't be talking to Jalen Milroe. That'll be Coach Sheridan's job there. It'll be interesting to see if Hugh Freeze, will he be the one talking? I guess he will be. If he's the offensive coordinator, will he be the one that is talking to his quarterback there? So I would be interested to – I don't know if you'll even be able to tell the difference as you start watching these games starting tonight. Will
defensive coaches stay on the field, be in the press box would be kind of interesting.
Only two coaches, and they announced who was going to be in the press box. And I believe Kane Womack was going to be on the field. Yeah. And so and I think that's all comfort there. And so anyway, this Alabama job, for a lot of guys, I'm pulled up I didn't realize Alabama had this many coaches over the years. Of course, they had a ton in the 1800s, and it went all the way down. But as far as it is now, there's more. I don't know if the word distractions is the right word, but with NIL having to pay guys, the portal different than it's ever been before. It's a 12-team playoff, not a 4-team playoff, which I think probably helps a little bit with everything that's going on. It's probably a little bit, it is easier to get into a 12-team playoff, but now you got to win more games than two. You've got two new teams now in this league with Texas and Oklahoma. Players can depart every year now, it seems like. So, and there were people talking about one of Alabama's commits is going to visit Ole Miss this weekend, and how the recruiting, they're talking about, it's never done. They're flipping guys left and right. Where do you rank this job now as far as the difficulty and the history of the job? Is it the most difficult job now with all these things that are going on? Is it the same because it's still Alabama and you got 12 teams, you can get in there? Where do you rank it?
I just don't think it's the most difficult, not necessarily the most difficult. I think it's the most looked at. The difficulty lies in the past and what they have done. I was at Alabama before any of our listeners were ever listening to it, when Ears Whitworth was the coach, and they couldn't beat anybody. And it's gone from Ears all the way down. Had Bart Starr. I saw a game or two of those. But I think in difficulty, yes, because of the past, the expectation factor, which I use that word all the time, the expectation factor is more there than it is at most other places because of the success they've had. Although people have to understand that, they had some failures too. They've gone through some periods of time where things didn't go the way they wanted them to go. But I think I think all of them are difficult this day and time. They're making a lot of money, but they're also...
Well, I'm meaning just the Alabama job. Forget the other jobs. Okay. Is it the hardest now than it's ever been with all the different, maybe way back when, but the expectation's been set. But I don't think Coach Saban was going to continue to dominate college football because of all the new rules that were in place, the transfer portal, the NIL, those things. And then you put on top of that Texas and Oklahoma coming in. Do you think this...
You weren't around, but it was pretty hard when Ray Perkins came in.
Yeah, it was.
It was pretty nasty and pretty hard. And you talk about the media staying after him and getting after him because
I was around. I was here.
And you went from raising Cain with the bus driver who drove the bus with the players, who got and then ended up getting upset with Highway Patrol. I was involved with seeing some of that, a lot of it. And I was close to Ray. People ended up disliking him very, very quickly, where this particular situation they have not. Ray was awfully nice to me and supportive of me, and I liked him to his dying day. But he did rub people the wrong way. I don't know that he handled the coaching changes on his staff the way he should have. He knew who he wanted to bring in, and he knew who he wanted to let go, and I don't know that he handled that very well either. The taking down the tower was a big deal because it was a public thing that everybody knew about. He just wanted to show you that things were going to go in a different way. When Ray Perkins was here and Pat Dye was at Auburn, the recruiting was we were on a lesser scale with Gene Bartow and I fighting basketball players, but that's the kind of deal it was. We had two pilots back then, and the pilots had to have certain hours off before they could fly again. And one of them said publicly or told me or something that Ray wore him out, just going from place to place. So those two guys got after each other and got after tried to hustle their school about as hard, much harder than these two guys will, because these guys are going to go a lot of different directions with their. I don't know about Auburn; they may stay in state more, but Alabama's going to have a mixture of in-state out-state.
Yeah, I would say when Ray Perkins took it over, it was he made a difficult situation more difficult by his actions, and I think Coach DeBoer probably made what was going to be a difficult situation and made it pretty smooth. Now we'll see what happens as the games start. 2 Minute Truck, they're at 1330 Martin Road East. That's where you go pick up your boxes, your packing supplies, whatever you need to make this a smooth move. It's local, out of town, out of state, no problem. Let the professionals handle it. They'll take great care of you and your stuff. Give them a call today for the free estimates. Easy, 205-247-5050. That is 2 Men in a Truck, movers who care.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Thursday morning. The Tuscaloosa County Sheriff's Office is seeking a 16-year-old girl they describe as a runaway. She was last seen almost a week ago. She's Farah Whaley and was last seen in the area of Wesley Chapel Road on August the 22nd. Call the Tuscaloosa County Sheriff's Office if you have any information as to her whereabouts. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage all throughout the day. It's absolutely free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Well, that is a wrap for the earlier accident on McFarland at University. I only see very small slow goes, very brief, on the eastbound lanes of University moving on to McFarland. Otherwise, traffic is moving pretty A-OK in the rest of the area. Just be aware of a little time.
For the Last Scoreboard Show from 10 to 11 p.m. The Last Scoreboard Show is brought to you by 4th District Congressman Robert Adderholt, Bevel State Community College, 1225 Sports Bar, and Taco Casa.
From the University of Alabama, this is Crimson Tide Today. It's a daily update on Bama sports and it's brought to you by The Good Feet Store. The Good Feet Store is a proud supporter of the Alabama Crimson Tide. For over 25 years, The Good Feet Store has been helping people get back to the life they love without their feet getting in the way. Start your journey at goodfeet.com. Hello again, everybody. I'm Roger Hoover. On today's edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, we'll be joined by Alabama defensive lineman Tim Smith.
My opinion, turnovers. Because I'm not going to lie, our defense has been on one this fall and spring. Even with Womack being new and us trying to understand everything, it's not even so much the scheme, it's just like our mindset as a defensive whole. Like I just got done mentioning Swarm D. Like, everybody want that pill. I mean, I don't want to put it as, I don't want to put my perspective on everybody else, but it's like, you know, in football, the whole pictures and the video, like they really are only recording the dude who gets the ball. You know what I'm saying? He getting the most recognition. So as a defensive player to go get that rock, man, that's all you're going to see all season. Interception, forced fumbles, fumble recovery. Defense going to have the ball all year.
I'll have more in moments.
This is Christian Miller for the Good Feet Store. I know from playing football at Alabama and in the NFL that if you have foot, knee, hip, or back pain, it can be a huge challenge. The Good Feet Store is designed to personally fit you with arch supports that alleviate and even eliminate your pain altogether. Try them before you buy them. They're in your free, no obligation, personalized fitting, and you can wear them home the same day. So if you're looking to improve your game, the Good Feet Store has you covered. Stop in for a free, personalized fitting today. Roll to victory at goodfeet.com. That's goodfeet.com. Roll Tide.
If you missed last night's episode of Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show, catch it on demand on the Alabama Insider Podcast and the Alabama Athletics YouTube channel. Crimson Tide Today is brought to you by The Good Feet Store. Crimson Tide Today is a production of the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partially sunny today. The chance of a few isolated showers or thunderstorms this afternoon or this evening. The high today 97, tonight's low 74. Tomorrow morning sunshine, isolated storms by afternoon. The high 95. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Never miss a moment of the action. Download the free Tide 100.9 app today.
Well, welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. I get right to the Yellowwood Hotline. We'll get Philip into the show. Hey, Philip.
Hey, Phil. Hey, guys. Coach Sanson, I've got a little defensive information for Wisconsin I'll give you in a second. We talked about it yesterday.
He gave you some homework, didn't he?
He did, and like a good recruit, I did it.
There you go.
I did it. Hey, but before I do that, I want to thank Greg Byrne for calling out the absolutely shoddy and deceptive reporting by Football Scoop yesterday. And Courtney Morgan followed it up, too, and I appreciate him doing that. But when I read the article, you had to go into the article to sort of see what they were talking about on the NIL thing at Alabama. But the person who wrote the headline knew damn well what he was doing. And it was shoddy and deceptive reporting on their part. And I want to thank Coach Byrne for calling them out on X.
They must have gotten some calls from some people that were supposed to be getting some NIL money saying, what is this, for them to go out and basically say that story is not true. Their NIL is live and well.
It is alive and well, and it was they went deep into the article before they really gave some details on what they were actually reporting on. But they threw enough deception in there, and enough fake right, give left, fake left, fake a pitch out. You know, they gave enough fakery to throw some people off, and they did. Hell, they did it on damn purpose.
Yeah. Well, they went to social media to clean it up, and I'm sure whoever had the questions about it knows the truth now. But you're right, and so I guess that's the power of social media both ways. You can also correct a wrong in a situation like that.
Well, so. Greg Byrne got on it, and I appreciate him not sitting back and just taking it easy on that, because that could have been hugely damaging.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got a little information here for you guys on Wisconsin's defense, and that game is becoming, all of a sudden in the last 72 hours, that game has suddenly become very worrisome for me. But Wisconsin's defense, they are in a very much a rebuilding mode from last year. That weak defenses got them and helped them lose a bunch of games last year. But they have hit the transfer portal hard. They have a defensive lineman named Thompson that may be out for the year, and they were counting on him. That's going to be a massive hit to them. He was a veteran, and their defensive line was considered a weakness last year, but they have rebuilt some with some transfers, although I will say this. They got a transfer from Albany and a transfer from Stephen F. Austin to bolster their defensive line. Their cornerbacks and defensive backs are considered strengths, very deep position groups. Their linebackers were a significant weakness last year, but they've gotten better this year. But again, we'll see. Their transfers that they're counting on came from William and Mary and Syracuse. Their inside linebackers, they got a transfer from Arkansas, a guy from USC, and a guy from North Carolina. They have a kicker named Nathaniel Vakos, Vakos. He's a lights-out 50-plus yard field goal kicker. So there's a little bit of just real quick highlights on their defense this year. I think they have rebuilt. They've taken a lot of transfer guys to sort of bolster their weaknesses, and we'll see how Albany and Stephen F. Austin and William and Mary and that type helps them bolster. We'll see.
Coach DeBoer is going to get after both of y'all. Y'all worried about game 3. We got game 1. Y'all talking about game 3.
Well, and that's absolutely right. But but I just feel like there's been a lot of, let's go to Wisconsin. They'll have some bratwurst and drink some Schlitz malt liquor, and, they'll beat them. We'll go tailgate and have a good time, come back home, and have a good time. But I don't know. That game is a little bit worrisome for me. Alabama at this point is a 9.5 favorite.
Wow. What happened? Where is Tim Tebow? Is he still with ESPN? I hadn't seen Tim Tebow
I have not seen or heard anything out of Tim Tebow.
That's your homework. Find out what's happened to is Tim Tebow still going? I guess he'll be on maybe the SEC network. So maybe we'll see him Saturday. But I hadn't seen him. Philip, appreciate it. We'll start giving you more homework from time to time. We'll give you the night off. Well, find out about Tim Tebow. Is Tim Tebow still going to be with us? Let us know.
We'll see y'all.
Thank you, Philip.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and take this break. We'll get to our main man, JC. You listen to Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM. WTBC is the home of Alabama sports.
Weekday mornings at 6 a.m. The Martin Houston Show.
Join the Martin Houston Show, powered by Box Eye Care, Martin and Gabriel. You inside Alabama's final day of preparation as we get prepared for Alabama versus Western Carolina. We'll take your score predictions on the Empowerment Strategy and Solution hotline. Give us a call, 205-242-9904. We'll have our last and final thoughts as Kalen DeBoer era begins. That's the Martin Houston Show, powered by Box Eye Care.
Catch the Martin Houston Show from 6 to 7 weekday mornings on Tide 100.9.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Well, that is a wrap for the earlier accident on McFarland at University. I only see very small slow goes, very brief, on the eastbound lanes of University moving on to McFarland. Otherwise, traffic is moving pretty A-OK in the rest of the area. Just be aware of a little
Fridays at the Free at Innisfree Irish Pub, 1925 University Boulevard, downtown. Come join Wyatt Fulton for lunch at Innisfree Irish Pub.
Road tripping, business travel, or bringing your car in for repairs. All great reasons to rent a Toyota at Tuscaloosa Toyota. You can rent the latest Toyota models for a day, a week, or a weekend. Every Toyota rental-car comes with 24 hours roadside assistance.
DEAL or text DEAL to 511-511. Text DEAL to 511-511 today. All dogs are unique. Your dog results can and will vary. Message and data rates may apply.
Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. Thank Yellowwood Pressure Treated Pine from Great Southern Wood. Always remember, guys, if it doesn't have the yellow tag on it, you don't want it. All right, we'll get to the Yellowwood hotline. He's the owner of the BigSpur.com. I know he's got several different podcasts that he's probably putting out. I'm not sure if he's going over to Columbia or not this weekend. JC Sherbert. Good morning, JC. How are you, buddy?
Hi, JC.
Good morning. How are you guys doing? No, I'm not going to Columbia this weekend.
No Old Dominion.
I'm going to be limited tonight. Probably night games till the end of October. My stepson's playing varsity football, so I've got to make it down there. I got to find a flight early in the morning, and if kickoffs anytime before like 7 or 8, there's just not a lot of options. So I'll be at the crib watching the Gamecocks for most of the year, and then I'll try to make it to several games later on.
JC. Dad does the Blue Plate Special. This is the big one this week. He's going to do it tomorrow. But I think he's right. Like he had picked SMU, and then he said to me, I had no idea that the other team had that many transfers on their team. And I guess my question is, early in the season, like game 1, game 2, does Vegas have a hard time with these lines, getting them right, knowing kind of who got who? I mean, I know they know who got who, but how good these people are. Is it hard to set these lines here in the first week or two of the season until you see these teams play?
I think there's something to that. I think everybody does. I mean, I mentioned yesterday on the show that Bill Connolly and the FPI, which Bill doesn't do that. I think the FPI for ESPN is absolutely worthless because of the criteria they use. They're going to have to kind of redo their algorithm at some point because you're getting a lot of things based off history. There's a lot of assuming. Florida State, Georgia Tech, a lot of assuming there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, we had a couple of teams play. The rest of the schedule was what I call donkey on Saturday. But looking at those games, you had Montana State from FCS as a 13.5-point favorite at New Mexico. Nobody talked about the fact, number one, Montana State's coach went to Nevada last year in the offseason. They got a new coach, Bronco Mendenhall, who's won everywhere he's been. It's hard to win at Virginia. He won at Virginia. He took over New Mexico. They both had a ton of portal guys. SMU's got to go all the way across the country. Montana State is a 60 scholarship FCS team. It didn't surprise me they were close. The SMU line was ridiculous, 28.5. I mean, I was like, there's no way. The elevation in Reno, Nevada, I mean, it's kind of up there near Lake Tahoe. I mean, there's a lot you got to battle when you go that far. And then you got a new head coach, and teams, when they have new head coaches, tend to overplay in that first game, because they're looking for redemption and stuff. So none of that surprised me at all. And I think heading into this weekend, there's going to be a lot of surprises, because you just don't know. Nobody's tracking the group of five or especially the FCS superstar. And in some cases, like at Missouri last year, a Division II guy.
Yeah.
Led the SEC in rushing. we should use that common sense, because if you look at the NFL and who actually makes it, it's not all Power 5 guys. There are some out there, majority of them are, but there are some guys. And I also think this, as it relates to Georgia and Clemson, we've been, since Saban was at Alabama and since 09, 08 really, when they broke through, we've been living in an Alabama world where, okay, how do you win it all in college football? You've got to put together a super team. So we're kind of searching for the next super team. Coaches make this mistake in recruiting. They get a 6'5" receiver and they fall in love, and this guy's all world. Well, then they go get a 6'5" guy that runs a 4.8. It's basically a skinny tight end, and he can't play dead in a movie. We all kind of fall in love with things. So we're looking for that next dynasty. So, like when Paul Feinbaum says Georgia's the next Bama, I don't know. They haven't proven that yet.
Yeah.
They've been really good and great for 4 years now. But and Kirby's 94-16. That's a heck of a record. But they hadn't gone on a run like Bama has, and we don't know that yet. And so I think there's just a lot of assuming right now because nobody really knows how to evaluate the transfer portal. I think somebody could make a lot of money and probably end up being on 3 because my boy Shannon Terry's there and he thinks outside the box. If they would dedicate a group of evaluators, scouts, what have you, to just doing the transfer portal. Now the recruiting guys are trying to do it. They're in love with the high school rankings, so they'll give a guy that was a 5-star, whether or not he stinks, and as a bust, they'll still give him 4 in the portal. Well, the FCS guy coming up is getting 3. That FCS guy's better.
Yeah.
Right? So you need an independent group that blocks that. I mean, how stupid is it to base things on what you did in high school? I would not base anything in my life on what I did in high school once I got out of high school. That's like giving a medical degree to a person that won most likely to be a doctor as a high school superlative. Why would you do that? I don't want that guy operating on me. Do you? No, it's high school. So I think there needs to be an independent group evaluating. Somebody's going to make a lot of money doing it because right now everybody's just kind of stuck in the past. And the portal with the numbers and stuff that dictates that last year means nothing. These people that talked about, Florida State's lost back-to-back to the state of Georgia, and Florida State's loss just makes the committee look good for leaving them out, that's bullcrap.
Yeah.
So that team that got left out last year lost how many players, and they got how many new players? I mean, that has nothing to do with them losing to Georgia Tech. And people should understand that, but I think we have so few games in this sport, guys. We talk about it all year. And there's just 12 days you're guaranteed. For some, you may get 16. That's great. But 12 is the guarantee. There's 353 other days, so we talk it to death, and we base so much on history. And with the and you could do that within a reasonable amount of doubt when recruiting was just normal. Well, now you can't. 'Cause not only do you have the portal, everybody signs in December, everybody's committed by August. There's a whole high school football season that takes place where guys get a lot better and they can play at that level, but everybody's full. So the personnel situation in college football is very, very hard to determine.
That.
I knew about the coaching changes. I didn't know about the number of transfers they had. And when I did that last week, I sort of did it based on how bad Nevada had been the last 2 years, and that was a mistake on my part. I had judged on how bad they had been, and not how bad, being better. Is the transfer portal being done away with in the spring going to leave us with a lot of football players who went through spring training with their teams and now are disgusted because they thought they were going to be more involved after they had the spring game, and they're all mad at the world because they can't transfer? Are we going to see disgruntled teams in the locker rooms because of this? Am I wrong on that?
If it sticks, my guess is they're going to get sued over it because you are going to have those situations, and in some situations, and I think these are the most unfortunate when guys leave for more money after spring, I think that's bad for coaches and college in the sport. Right. But the guys you're talking about that aren't going to play, I mean, I would definitely, because then if there's any doubt, kids are going to jump in the portal in January. And some of them may not have a place to go. I mean, you already got a bunch of guys like that. Yeah, because it's going to be a judgment call. It's like, well, once you commit to spring. Now, with the current rules, you can say, all right, well, just give it spring practice, and then if you want to go. We think you can get a lot better and compete, and then if it doesn't work out, you can go. But nobody in this whole thing, Coach, is thinking like you're thinking about that. Nobody's thinking about the guys on the roster that are like the 10th best to the 85th best.
Yeah.
The NIL, all that stuff, it's all geared towards your top players. And like I said before, football changes so much year to year in terms of guys that develop, guys that get better, guys that get lazy and don't work. You have to work at it. That ranking changes. So, but this whole thing is just geared towards these alleged superstars and the high-profile name guys. And so nobody in any rule is thinking about that, what they're doing. And I appreciate the fact they're trying to do some right by coaches. They're trying to keep the star players that have big springs from walking out the door for more money. And I get that totally.
Yeah.
However, nobody's thinking about those poor guys that are going to be buried on the bench. And then the coaches that could frankly replace them with upgrades. So I don't know how it's going to stand. My guess is they get sued again because somebody's going to want to transfer and they're going to get a lawyer and it's probably going to get blown up just like everything else. But I think right now you make a great point, Coach, about those guys that are just going to give it spring.
Yeah, I think it's people talk about the players leaving, but a lot of times now it's easy for the coaches to push them out the door. So then they go through the spring and they feel like, man, we made a mistake. But now they're going to have to keep that guy, which is probably, hey, that's their problem. They didn't evaluate well on the front end. So there's no right answer on it. To be quite honest with you, it's just the wild, wild west right now. JC, if Ohio State goes through and just mops everybody up and wins the national championship, they're saying they spent $20 million, I guess, in NIL to buy a team. What will that do to college football? Will that make the Tennessees and the Texases and all these people say, all right, they did it. They bought a team. We got to go buy us one. If they lose, like Texas A&M did a couple of years ago with Jimbo Fisher when they bought all those players, will it be good for Ohio State to win the national championship or bad for college football?
For the sport, bad.
Yeah.
For Ohio State, good. For Ryan Day's career, good. I mean, look, they've been very public about what they threw out, NIL money, and they've got the money to do it. I mean, the state of Ohio is a very large state with a big population, lots of money in Ohio, and they're the only school, really. I mean, no offense to Cincinnati and the MACs that play in that state, and it's also a great state for high school football. So Ohio State should be excellent at all times. But national championship or bust is a tough deal.
Yeah.
And you look at the guys they got from they're stacked. They're stacked, but are they invincible stacked? I don't think so. I certainly don't think they're going to lose to Michigan this year. I certainly think that Oregon could clip them. I think that game's out in Eugene. I don't know that that's likely, but they could clip them. And then you got to go through, 3 rounds of playoffs now, plus the Big Ten championship game. So I don't know. Everybody has a bad day. I mean, college football stories have been written like this. I remember the 80s and on up to 2002, University of Miami went to the Fiesta Bowl twice, played Penn State in 86. They were undefeated. Vinny Testaverde lost 14-10. And then in 2002, on a controversial play, they lost to Ohio State for the national championship. And those Miami teams were great. They had more NFL guys than the teams they played, but everybody has a bad day in the sport. And, injuries will play a factor. Health. Nobody's ever gone through a 16-game season like this. I think national championship or bust is very, very tough for Ryan Day and Ohio State just because, there's no guarantee even with the $20 million. And if they don't win it, then everybody's going to laugh at, oh, you look at how much you spent. So who knows? Who knows what will happen? But I think that's awfully bold of them to do. I think they have the team to win it. I think I would rank them number one. But we know when the game is played, we know that weird things happen. So I would be very cautious about a national championship mandate at Ohio State. But that's a long way to answer your question. Absolutely, it would not be good for the sport because everybody else is going to see.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned about Alabama. Well, this is the way to glory. Everybody says we got to be Alabama. For years. Well, now it's we got to be Ohio State and spend all this money, and I just don't think $20 million. I don't think it's worth it in this sport. I think that's way high.
Yeah, that.
I'm wondering. I'm wondering how the money that they've gotten is that distributed. It can't be. As Barry has pointed out that you got a certain amount that you can't. Is that distributed? How is that distributed, and how is that done? I know they got. I know they have it, but are we getting into rule breaking publicly now?
Well, I guess my question, JC, I think what he's getting at is that they pass these new rules to where anything over $600 has to be approved. Then how are these guys going to be paying these guys this amount of money, JC, and it be justified, I guess is what we're saying.
That's interesting because right now, the settlement hasn't become official.
Right.
They're not going to retroactively punish schools.
No, but I'm talking about going forward.
It'll have a start date. Well, they'll have revenue sharing. All the lawsuit and the settlement is dependent on revenue sharing, and you get everybody gets $22 million to spend, and you can divide it up however you want. Now, I've mentioned Title IX before, and there are opportunistic zealots out there that are going to sue and say women deserve 60% of that based on your student body, and that's just not a revenue share is like a sales bonus, right? It's like commission. These guys are bringing in the money, so they deserve the money back. It's not has nothing to do with Title IX. It's independent. And so I think if they survive litigation, which we say that a lot now, everybody's just going to have $22 million in their athletic department. I think 17 of that or so will go to football, a couple of mil to $3 million for men's basketball, and the other sports will divide up the rest. And then that's where the NIL money's coming from. Now, we won't see $20 million again because Ohio State's got 38 varsity sports, and they care about men's basketball. So they'll break off a chunk for their basketball program. So it brings you down to 19, 18, whatever. But it all kind of depends on this Title IX thing. This Title IX thing, you get an activist judge that's a left-leaning, bleeding heart liberal, and they're going to sit there and say, no, you got 55% women. This revenue, 55% has to go to them because this is what, they interpret the law different. And that sucks. And I hope it doesn't happen because it's fundamentally unfair. Women's basketball loses millions of dollars at these schools. Millions. I mean, South Carolina, I think the number was 5-7, and they won the national championship. So money's money, right? And so I think it's got to survive all that. If it does, I think this settlement, Barry, is the best possible scenario because everybody's got the same amount. Spend it how you want. You got to be smart. And then NIL, it goes back to what it was intended to be because you'll have a clearinghouse that says, no, you can't pay $1 million for a tweet, right? And hopefully they set the clearinghouse up to where it's non-biased, non-partisan, all that good stuff. So we'll see what happens, but I think the settlement's the best thing they could possibly do as long as it survives litigation, which I have my doubts.
Yeah. Tell us about this Clemson-Georgia game. Line's 13.5. Game's going to be obviously in Atlanta. Probably a pro-Georgia crowd. I know there'll be a lot of Clemson people in there. How good is this Clemson team? Do you look for them to cover this line? Do you give them a chance to win the game, JC?
I think it's an awfully big number. And with everything, I look at the matchups, and everybody's going on and on about Florida State's D-line. They're the best in the ACC, whatever. We know that's not true. It's always been Clemson's. They've got Peter Woods from the state of Alabama, his teammate T.J. Parker that's a sleeper, that's a stud. They're very deep up front on the defensive line, and their defensive front's elite. That's the one part of Clemson football that hadn't really taken a step back under Dabo Swinney. They still recruit elite defensive players there for whatever reason. Offensively, I'm a little concerned about Georgia's health on defense and their depth, because Kirby keeps talking about how banged up they are, how injured they are. Some guys are out. And then everybody, I don't think he's going to suspend Trevor Etienne. I don't know if the news has come out on that or not. But if he is, Georgia's light at running back. They're not normal Georgia. So is Carson Beck going to have the time against that D-line? Georgia's got an excellent offensive line to find one of the most talented receiving corps in college football. Brock Bowers is gone. There's your safety valve. They saved them a couple of times last year. And then I've tracked Mike Bobo's play calling and coordinating for years, and I think he's one of the best. However, he does love to stick to the run and be stubborn, and if Georgia's not able to run the football, that's going to, I've seen his offense bogged down. Auburn last year, South Carolina in the first half last year, Alabama game. And so the matchup, to me, it's Clemson's D-line and defensive front versus the Georgia offense. And my opinion is Clemson's going to surprise, and we're going to see a pretty close football game. And I would take Clemson to cover the 13.5.
Yeah. That?
Well, I don't know. That's interesting. I'd like for you, since I'm doing this, to make a comment about Notre Dame and Texas A&M.
Oof.
Yeah, my wife's going to be mad at me. My wife's going to kill me. But if Notre Dame did not have a situation where they're starting a true freshman from the state of Georgia, good player at left or one of the tackle spots against that defensive line, which is the very best. Like the rest of A&M's kind of been gutted. They have questions in the secondary. They got questions on offense. But although their quarterback, if he stays healthy, is going to be really good, their defensive line's atrocious. Ferocious. And so I think, in my opinion, that's going to be a tough fourth quarter game, and A&M's going to find a way to get it done, and everybody's going to be talking about how bad Notre Dame's offense is. Now, here's the X factor, though, guys. Riley Leonard is their quarterback. He was a QB at Duke last year. That dude can run. So if Mike Denbrock, their offensive coordinator, is creative and runs him a little bit, in other words, you get the pass rush coming toward you, you dart out there. Like I said, A&M's got issues in the secondary. If Notre Dame runs the quarterback, then it may be a different situation. But right now, that would be scary to me going into that environment at night. One of the biggest games of the day with a true freshman starting at tackle against that bunch. That's just a recipe for disaster. And quite frankly, the coaching matchup between Mike Elko and Marcus Freeman, it's a mismatch, because I don't think Marcus Freeman's a very good coach. I've seen him. I watch a lot of Notre Dame with my wife because she's a huge fan, and I just don't think he's very good. And I think Mike Elko is excellent. So
how do you like Virginia Tech?
He's picking your brain now, JC.
How much are they? How much are they laying?
13.5.
13.5 at Vandy in Nashville.
Vanderbilt's got no transfers.
I've driven from Nashville to Blacksburg before, and there's going to be an army of Hokie fans in Nashville for this opener. They travel well. I'd say 20,000 in that newly remodeled stadium for Virginia Tech. I'll say this: the only thing that makes me think Vandy could give them a game. Number one, it's an opening game. Number two, you don't just walk into the kill zone and think you're going to come out with a win. Now, when I say the kill zone, remember Jerry Kill, who was the coach at New Mexico State last year. Y'all remember that Auburn game, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
and his quarterback and his offensive coordinator are now at Vandy. So on the mean streets of the east end of Nashville, you just can't walk into the kill zone and just mess around and expect to win, right?
JC.
So that's the only thing that gives me pause. But I think Virginia Tech, they're very fundamentally sound. They look more like a Frank Beamer team now that Brent Pry's the coach. And I got to give him credit. I didn't know that the hire would frankly work out for them. But they had a really surprising year last year, even though they lost to Marshall on the road. I think they could make some noise in the ACC. So I will go with Virginia Tech to cover, but not by much. I think they'll win by about 16, 30-14, maybe get a safety, something like that.
All right. Oh, you just messed him up. All right. JC, is Riley Leonard the starting quarterback for Notre Dame?
Yeah, I'm questioning that.
I'm gonna see how smart you are, JC. Where is Riley Leonard from?
Alabama, somewhere.
There you go. Fairhope, Alabama, which is beautiful.
Fairhope.
Yeah.
There's so many players in Alabama. Yeah, they don't. It's like, as a South Carolinian, I'm jealous as heck because you look at this two states population. South Carolina actually has more people than Alabama now, and is growing. Well, everybody in the South growing, but the number of Division I players in Alabama dwarfs South Carolina. I mean, I'm jealous. So.
Yeah. All right, JC, you guys got any podcasts this week?
Oh yeah, we finished a JC and Morgan this week, and we had Tim Brando on.
Oh,
and
boy.
Tim Brando went off on college football a little bit. It's awesome. And I'll leave your listeners with this question. You can get this on the Chief Sports app. It's on Google Play or the Apple App Store. He thinks there's a deep state in college football. The deep state, right? Y'all have heard that term.
No.
So I'll let everybody go listen to it. But Brando had a lot of good things to say, and it's the JC and Morgan podcast. On the Chief Sports app.
Next time
we can get him on.
Next time you have him on, have him do his Wimp impersonation. He can do it perfect, JC. Have him do that for you.
Sweet.
Yeah.
He used to get on Coach Saban all the time, so I quit having him on.
Nice. Thank you, JC. Look forward to talking to you about all the games next week. We'll see what happens.
Thank you.
Thanks, fellas. Have a good weekend. See you.
Nice job confusing me.
Yeah, he's got you confused now. I think you were leaning away, and JC don't know everything. Go against him. All right, we'll take this top of the hour break. Double these breaks up. We'll have Tommy Ford on when we get back. Everybody knows Tommy Ford in this community. He's got a new podcast we're going to talk to him about as well. We'll ask him about Alabama football and the changing of the guard over there with Coach DeBoer coming in for Nick Saban. This is Tide 100.9. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Hey, coming up starting at 2 p.m., obviously we are now 2 days away from Alabama Crimson Tide football. We're going to talk to Rodney Orr, TiderInsider.com, Aaron Torres, Fox Sports. We're going to take your phone calls as we get you ready for Alabama Crimson Tide football 2024 edition, all starting 2 p.m. on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230. WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. The intersection of Lurleen Wallace and McFarland Boulevard has its usual slow and go. And also in the rest of the area, not doing too shabby right now. Again on McFarland at Boone Boulevard, Rose Boulevard, a little busy at the intersection. But other than that, you're good to go. And then coming over to Coaling, we got the usual on 11. And this is right hovering around Middle Coaling Road. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Tammy Thomas.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Eddie Garcia.
Some breaking news from the NFL, where New England Patriots head coach Gerard Mayo reportedly told his team this morning that Jacoby Brissett will start the season against the Bengals at quarterback over the third pick in this year's draft, Drake May. And the Cleveland Browns have restructured the contract of quarterback Deshaun Watson, converting $44.2 $1.79 million of his 2024 base salary into a signing bonus. Cleveland now has over $62 million in cap space, the most in the NFL. In baseball games of note, the Guardians rally past the Royals 7-5. Cleveland avoids being swept in the 4-game series, and they reclaim sole possession of first place in the AL Central, 1 game up on Kansas City. Battle of division leaders, the Astros roll over the Phillies 10-0. Houston's leading the AL West still at 3.5 on Seattle.
There are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com.
So where should we go next?
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
This guy partially sunny today. The chance of a few isolated showers or thunderstorms this afternoon or this evening. The high today 97, tonight's low 74. Tomorrow morning sunshine, isolated storms by afternoon. The high 95. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Inside the locker room with former Crimson Tide basketball coach Wimp Sanderson and his son, former SEC and ACC assistant basketball coach Barry Sanderson. It's time to take you inside the locker room on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to the second hour of Inside the Locker Room. Allstate Insurance agent Andrew Kniffer. He will help kick off this 8 o'clock hour. Andrew is my Allstate agent. Let him become yours out at 4705 McFarland Boulevard, Suite 3 over in Northport. Don't just pay your bill. Know exactly what you have insurance-wise. Let Andrew run a quote for you. Give him a call today, 205-722-9201. Andrew Kniffer, Allstate Insurance. All right, get right to the Andrew Kniffer hotline. He's retired now. Well, he's not retired, but from the university, but was assistant athletic director out there for a long, long time. I know he was over tickets and everything at one time there, but did list a little bit of everything over there. But a good friend of the show's Tommy Ford. Good morning, Tommy. How are you?
Hey, Tommy.
Hey, guys. How are y'all doing? Coach, how are you doing?
Doing good. Okay.
Good.
Tommy, before we get into your new podcast, which I'm excited to get a chance to listen to, just you've seen them come and go over at the university, employee, coaches, athletic directors. Dad and I've talked for 9 years about having to follow Nick Saban. I think it's probably up to this point, it's probably gone about as smooth as it could possibly go. Just talk about what you've seen there.
Well, you're right. I had a chance to be around Coach DeBoer. He's just taking it in and doing a great job. Everywhere he's been, he's very engaging. He's very curious about the Alabama tradition. He wants to learn more about it. He seems to have a great relationship with the players. I've been out on the road a few times and talking to alumni and boosters around the state, and everybody's just really positive now. I happened to drop by Baumhauer's last night for the Hey Coach show, and folks who have worked those shows for a long time says it's the largest crowd they'd ever seen, and it was a madhouse at Baumhauer's last night. And it just seems like it's a great, smooth transition, and Greg Byrne obviously did a great job in his selection process of Coach DeBoer, and I'm excited about this weekend and about this season.
Yeah, Dad?
No, I don't really have anything. Just let Tommy say whatever he'd like to say about what he's going to do with his show.
Yeah, so Tommy, so we just saw our New Heights, the Kelseys, are making $100 million over 3 years to do a podcast. So I'm sure you got into it for the money when you saw all this money being thrown around for podcasts. But tell us about Crimson Chronicles, new podcast that you guys are starting.
Well, thank you, Barry. We started this just a few weeks ago. Actually, a guy named Rick Morton from Birmingham called me, big Alabama fan, and has done a lot of podcasts through the years through Lifeline Children's Services in Birmingham. And he had just come up with this idea about starting a podcast, not about how practice went today or who's in the portal or how recruiting is going or who's going to start at wide receiver, but to do one on Alabama athletics history. And so he asked if I'd be interested in joining him in this venture. And I said, sure, I would, because I've kind of lived that for, over 40 years, working at the university. And then I've had the opportunity to write 12 books on Alabama football through the years. And it's just been kind of my life. And so we started it July the 30th, and it's called Crimson Chronicles. And it's available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And the first 5 episodes, actually 6 episodes, the 5th one was so long we split it into 2. We've been analyzing coaching transitions at Alabama all the way back to Ears Whitworth to Coach Bryant. And that started July 30th, and we've dropped one every Tuesday since then. And the first one was the Ears Whitworth to Bryant, and we had Scooter Dias and Gary White on. And they were there during that time and talked about that. And then we the next week went to the Bryant to Perkins transition and had Paul Ockferuth and Randy Edwards on there. And they were part of Coach Bryant's last 2 teams, Coach Perkins' first 2. And then Roger Schultz, who's quite an entertainer, came on and talked about the Ray Perkins to Bill Curry to Gene Stallings transition, which he played under all 3 of those coaches. And then the one that dropped last week was quite a mouthful here, but Randy Ross, who was a 17-year employee at Alabama, came on and talked about the Gene Stallings to Mike Dubose to Dennis Franchione to Mike Price to Mike Shula transition, and did a great job and talked about all the inner workings of all those coaches and sort of what happened to them, and really did a great job. And then Steve Townsend, who was Mal Moore's confidant and also the author of Mal's autobiography, came on earlier this week and talked about the hiring of Nick Saban. And Steve was in on the ground floor, the inner circle of doing that with Mal. And then today actually dropped the Greg Byrne podcast interview about his hire of Kalen DeBoer. So in 6 podcasts, we've covered about over 60 years of Alabama history, and that's what this podcast is about. It's about Alabama athletics history, and it will talk about basketball and baseball as well throughout the year. It's gone very well.
Give us a little, maybe something we don't know about Greg Byrne trying to hire Kalen DeBoer. Was that his first choice there? I mean, he probably didn't get into all that, but maybe something that the listener doesn't know that kind of went down during that whole transition.
Well, the thing that I came away with from it is that Greg was so prepared for this moment. I mean, he knew that Coach Saban was not going to be here forever. And I think Greg had a plan, probably starting 3 or 4 years ago, that if that day were to come, especially with all the changes in college athletics that y'all talk about quite often, the transfer portal and NIL, and Coach Saban's age, all contributed to his retiring, I think, and everybody knows that. But the thing about Greg is he had a plan in place, and he really did not know for sure that Coach Saban was retiring until that 4 o'clock meeting that day. And he had a suspicion. Coach had kind of thrown some hints at him that this may be it, but he really didn't know. So funny thing he said was when Coach announced his retirement, it was very short, 5-7 minutes or so, and then he walked out of the room, and players were stunned. And so Greg gets up and tells all the team, give me 72 hours. And he implored them to just be patient. And he met with some of the leadership of the team. But Greg had Kalen DeBoer in his sights for a while, especially after such a great season last year. And I think some more coaches were probably considered, and probably feelers were sent out for some obvious coaches, Steve Sarkisian, maybe even Kirby, probably Dabo, Mike Norvell at Florida State. I think, some feelers were sent on all those just to gauge their interest. But I think Greg was zeroed in on Kalen DeBoer from the start. And the hiring of Kalen DeBoer is a fascinating story, just the way it all happened, and Greg flying out to Seattle and interviewing him, and then sending out that cryptic tweet with Archibald's chimney, smoke coming out. And he did not do that until he knew that plane was in the air with Kalen DeBoer on it coming back to Tuscaloosa. So, and then obviously there was time for our fans to get out to the airport and welcome Kalen DeBoer to Tuscaloosa. And I think the first 8 months or so has gone great.
Tommy, tell people if they want to get your podcasts that aren't familiar with how to get podcasts, how would they go to get it so they can listen to it?
Yeah, it's called Crimson Chronicles, and it's got the elephant logo with the microphone in the elephant trunk, and it's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We have a Facebook page called Crimson Chronicles, and all 6 of these podcasts are available, and we'll do one every week, probably drop every Tuesday, and we'll explore the history of Alabama athletics, not just what went on at practice today. But I think folks will enjoy it. I think the younger generation will enjoy it to learn more about the history, and the older folks like me will kind of reminisce and be able to bring back some great memories talking to the folks who made it happen.
I want to ask you this before we let you go. You know, I know you used to do the tickets. I think you may have even started the Tide Pride. I know that kind of went down in South Carolina when I was there. They had the I guess it was the Gamecock Club, and you had to start paying a fee in order to purchase the tickets. I think they hadn't done that. I know Alabama started that. People talk about wanting to change the seating in Coleman Coliseum and get the students around the court or whatever. That is a very difficult thing to do. I know you can speak to that. Even when they build this new arena, moving these people's seats over there that have been buying these seats for so long, but then you got to make money on these things. So you got to, charge these people for the right to purchase these seats. You get a lot of have to make a lot of tough phone calls doing things like that. Kind of talk a little bit about how difficult that is.
Well, that's a great segue. Next Tuesday, the podcast that we'll release is about the startup of Tide Pride and what all we went through. Rick and I talk about that in detail, and that'll drop next Tuesday. But I was on the ground floor of Tide Pride being started. We first sent out a brochure in Labor Day weekend of 1987, kind of giving some information about Tide Pride. And it was a very difficult transition because folks had season tickets for a long time and had not had to pay any extra for them. And the bottom line was, in the early 80s, we had built a football building, indoor practice facility, and we were about to embark in 1988 on the west side upper deck construction. And, the athletic department needed more money, and we were in debt. And so a decision was made, actually, when Coach Perkins was still the AD in 86, that we needed to find a new ticket priority program. And we hired Dr. Jay Sterling from the marketing department at the university to go out and do research. And he talked to about 30 other schools, and we kind of got the best of this school and the best of this school and the best of this one, and kind of formulated the startup of Tide Pride from those best ofs from these other schools. And it was launched actually December of 87 for the 88 football season. And it was very difficult because people were set in their ways. And two, a lot of people felt Coach Bryant had promised them they could have those tickets for life. And
yeah.
Coach Goosetree and Coach Sam Bailey all went to our defense and said, no, that wasn't the case. And we asked people to provide documents, and there wasn't any. And our university system attorneys actually went up through all of Coach Bryant's old files and letters, and nothing was ever written down to that effect. And we didn't take seats away from anybody. We just we allowed people to keep the same seats they had. It was just going to cost more with the per seat per year donation of Tide Pride. But once all the dust settled, Tide Pride has been a great program. It's in its 37th year. It's hard to believe, but my estimation, we've probably raised over 37 years, I don't know, about $600 to $700 million.
Yeah.
Just on the seat licensing program. That does not include ticket revenue, and it certainly doesn't include Crimson Tide Foundation donations over and above that.
Yeah, a lot of people get angry when you start trying to mess with their seats, and then they got to pay double for something they've been paying for so long. Those are difficult conversations to have.
Yeah,
sure.
and 10 years after we started Football Tide Pride, we put in Basketball Tide Pride, and I remember Mark Gottfried asking me he had just been there, I guess that was his first year, and he asked me to come speak to a lot of the season ticket holders. I remember standing on the floor of Coleman Coliseum, looking up there, and all these season ticket holders that had had their seats since the Coliseum opened in '68. They were saying, "How much is this going to cost me?" And so we instituted Tide Pride basketball in 1998, and I think it's just sort of accepted now. And it's necessary with increasing costs, and I don't envy our development office and our ticket office, Tide Pride office, if this new arena is built and how they're going to transition into that.
Yeah,
I've been at with several programs, and it's no fun. I'm telling you.
No, I'm sure it's not. Of course, the courtside seats I heard what they need to get for those. Wow. So, Tommy, we appreciate it. I know it's a great podcast. We look forward to listening to Crimson Chronicles, and appreciate you being on with us this morning.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, there's Tommy Ford. Has done a lot for the University of Alabama, and we'll be interested to hear those podcasts. And Dad, how about that? You were there during. It may have been another reason why Coach Perkins, because he probably was the one that said we got to get more money in here, and the way to do that is through seat licensing, I guess, and paying for these seats. Just talk about those times there.
Well, I couldn't talk about the playing on the field like the players did, but I could. I told them a lot of things about how the hirings went down on these coaches. Of course, my tenure as of today, not today, but as of this year, I pretty much kept up with it for 64 years because I went to Alabama in 1960. Coach Bryant came in 57. So I don't want any thoughts particularly about stuff, but it's a lot of things that went down behind the scenes in trying to hire coaches, and as far as playing for them and knowing how things went down, naturally I wouldn't be tuned to that, but the hiring of these.
Well, I was talking about the ticket changes when they started having to charge people.
The ticket changes with Ray came down tough, as Tommy said, because people don't want their prices changed, and they want to keep what they have. That's the whole two sentences right there. They don't want to change their prices and to go up, and they want to also be darn sure that they keep what they have, and that's difficult to do.
Yeah. All right, we'll open the phone lines now. That's it for the guests for today. So 205-342-9904. We'll also look at some of the games that will start tonight. Some pretty good games tonight. North Carolina, Minnesota. I'd be interested to watch that Colorado game. I know Coach Sander, Deion's son, just signed a new Nike deal there at Colorado. So there'll be a lot of eyes on that. And I think Deion's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. A lot of people pulling against Colorado tonight. So we'll see how they perform. But we'll look at some of those games as well. Also, take your phone calls, 205-342-9904. We want to thank Tuscaloosa Toyota. Go to TuscaloosaToyota.com. Looking for that Toyota Tundra. Great deals on that 1.99 APR or for the first 36 months on the Toyota. The 2025 Camrys are in. Beautiful cars there, 3.99% APR for the first 36 months on that. They also have the beautiful RAV4s out there, one of the hottest selling cars of all the cars across the country. You can go to the website, TuscaloosaToyota.com. You can look at the new inventory, pre-owned inventory, schedule service, rent a Toyota right there on the website. Or swing by Skyline Boulevard, see Justin, and tell him that Wimp and Barry sent you.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We're holding up pretty well in the area right now. Now we definitely have our rush to work slows kicking into gear. 69 southbound onto McFarland. You've got a long line of delays, as well as McFarland east and westbound at the 69 Lurleen-Wallace intersection. That's also
Tide Tailgate Show is presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors, Skyland Boulevard, Tuscaloosa, and the new location, Highway 280, Birmingham. Online at academy.com.
Road tripping, business travel, or bringing your car in for repairs. All great reasons to rent a Toyota at Tuscaloosa Toyota. You can rent the latest Toyota models for a day, a week, or a weekend. Every Toyota rental car comes with 24 hours roadside.
$100. Visit us at 3537 Skyland Boulevard East or check us out online, bmwoftuscaloosa.com. BMW of Tuscaloosa. Take your dreams for a drive.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partially sunny today. The chance of a few isolated showers or thunderstorms this afternoon or this evening. The high today 97, tonight's low 74. Tomorrow morning sunshine, isolated storms by afternoon. The high 95. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
You're listening to Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. So Alabama will take on West Kentucky. Whew. Last night, Mac had practice at 6-something, and it was so hot. Like last night at 6, it was a little before 6. So I was thinking, man, Saturday night, and Jenny was wanting to go to the game. I'm like, it's brutal out here. I don't know it's going to be quite that hot on Saturday, Dad, but Alabama's going to win the game. The line's 31, I believe. Is it important for them to play well, or just win the game and just take it one game at a time? I know Coach would like to play, obviously, his team to play well. You always want to do that and have the fans leave in a good frame of mind. But just kind of talk about what you expect, and is it important they play really well on Saturday night?
Well, I expect the defensive secondary, it's brand new, to be a little bit tested, whether they come up with things, interceptions or pass deflections, I don't know. But Western Kentucky has always been a team that's tried to throw the football as much as they possibly can. It'll be interesting to see if the swarm defense up front gets to the quarterback and make him ineffective for Western Kentucky. That's for me. I want to see if he's effective and able to get the ball downfield in their passing attack. I have a feeling they don't think they can run against Alabama, and my interest is to see if Western is able to get any big plays going with the passing attack, or whatever they try to do. So that, to me, that's interesting to me. So naturally, you want your team to play well. I'm sure on the offensive end they'll play quite well. Western has given up some points down through the years, but they should, it's going to be a little bit different, and it'll be opportunities where Milroe has the opportunity to throw, but the throw is not there. They're trying to teach him to throw it away. If it's not there at all, he can sometimes thread the needle sometimes, or either one, he may be able to run with it. So it's going to be interesting to me on both sides of the football.
Do you anticipate Ty Simpson getting action, or will it just have to be, you talk about playing your depth, but you also got to get in game condition. So you want your frontline guys to get some enough playing in to where they're in game condition, because they get into go up to Wisconsin and it's a fourth quarter game and they haven't played as much. So how do you handle your backups in a situation like this as far as playing them?
Well, I think you get your guys in the critical at the critical positions. the quarterback situations or the tackle situations or whatever you're trying to do blocking wise. I think you get your guys that you consider to be, you want to lack a better word, second string, that John Q. public doesn't really know about. The only thing they look at is the wideouts and the quarterbacks and running backs. You try to get, of course, you get the running backs in, and they'll know it. But if you get in linemen that need some work, you try to get them in and get them to see if they play poorly or better than they have played in practice. And so I think you do a little of all of it, provided that you're in a situation to do that. Most of you know that you can have a decent lead, and all of a sudden, the way football is this day and time, it's gone. So I think there's great communication between the head coach and the two offensive coordinators. One calls the plays and one makes suggestions. Shepard makes the suggestions, does not call the plays. But there's good communication there, and I think the head coach leaves the defense alone. I think the defensive coaches among themselves decide what they're going to do scheme-wise and anything else. I think they work together with Kalen staying out of it.
You know, one of the interesting things that Coach DeBoer does that's going to be new, and I think some of the players said they were kind of taken back because they thought about it, maybe think it's a good idea. They're going to practice on Sunday and take Monday off. Now, normally you play Saturday. The coaches work on Sunday. They go back in. They grade the film, and then you probably clean up what you did good, bad, whatever on Monday with your team. That's going to make for a late night, I would think, for Alabama football coaches. If you play that game tonight and you're going to turn around and have a practice on Sunday, I'm not 100% sure what time the practice is, then take Monday off. It's a different way to do it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. But it's sure, as far as being ready to practice on Sunday, there's going to have to be a lot of work done Saturday night after a game like that, I would think.
Well, I just think that sometimes the next day you're sore.
Yeah.
That you're not, you played your first game, and even though you've practiced a lot, that you're sore. And in some degree, in close games, you're tired. Sore and tired means rest for me, but he's a great football coach, knows what he wants to do, knows what he has done. The other coaches who have worked with him, defense coordinator and the offensive people and all, have worked with him up down through the years, or at one time or another, pretty much feel that he has control of what he wants to do, and that's a little bit different.
Yeah, I think maybe coaching and staff, they'd go in Sunday mornings, they would break down the film. You got people advanced scouting ahead of time, so I'm sure they already had a lot of the stuff cut up for the next game, and they would start preparing for that, and then the team would obviously come in on Monday. So it's going to be different there as far as that goes. Not saying, like I said, it's right or wrong. I personally would like to have a day to kind of look at everything, get my thoughts together. But that's the way he's done it. They say he has a calendar. I think it was in the coach's locker room that has it. He's always thinking ahead and has the year planned out in advance. So as to kind of know what's coming and what to expect. So there's a pretty neat article in AL.com kind of about all his deal there and about him taking the job and basically telling Courtney Morgan to meet him at the airport. That they was good. Courtney Morgan said just grab a few things, and then he was here for, I guess he had to go shopping once he got here. But I thought that was pretty interesting. All right, let's tell them about Bryant Bank before we get to break here.
Bryant Bank is the 4 locations in Tuscaloosa we talk about. I have a lot of listeners in Tuscaloosa, of course, and throughout the area. Birmingham has Bryant Bank opportunities, and as well as Columbiana and several places in South Alabama. And if you're looking for a bank, it wants to be your bank. It wants to help you be able to bank online around the clock, which is important. Gives you the freedom and flexibility to do so. People that are interested in you, not only is the bank nice, but the bankers know you by first name after the first visit or two. They'll do everything to keep your security stuff safe, your money, and regardless of all the problems that people come in trying to steal people's money, the fraud attempts and so forth. Bryant Bank has done a great job in being able to be darn sure that whatever you bring into that bank stays in that bank until you take it out yourself. So go by Bryant Bank and visit with them. I think that you'll find that being a part of Bryant Bank is really good for you and good for the community.
All right, you listen to Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We're holding up pretty well in the area right now. Now, we definitely have our rush to work slows kicking into gear. 69 southbound onto McFarland. You've got a long line of delays, as well as McFarland east and westbound at the 69 Lurleen-Wallace intersection. That's all.
On you. Not available in every state, subject to terms and conditions. Rating factors and savings vary, and in some states your rate could increase with high-risk driving. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Alabama fans are all over the world, and we are too. Download the Tide 100.9 app right now in the App Store and Google Play, and take the Crimson Tide everywhere you go.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. Dad had to step out, so he will do the blue play tomorrow. I think JC confused him, to be quite honest with you. I think he was leaning towards taking Virginia Tech. Is my personal opinion. I know he's looking at that Texas A&M game, and I know you guys think it's just for fun for him. He lives and dies with these picks. So when he doesn't get them right, it really eats at him. So I think it is more difficult to pick these games, Chase. You know, you got new coaches. You got Mike Elko there at Texas A&M now. It's a night game against Notre Dame, who's got a transfer from Duke, as we talked about, the kid from Fairhope as their starting quarterback. The Lions, normally home teams in those situations are favored. They're underdogs. So the Vanderbilt line is a little, I saw that as well, 13.5. The game is in Nashville, but they talk about Virginia Tech having a quality football team. So good thing is tonight, college football starts. We got games tomorrow. We got games Saturday. We got a big game Sunday with LSU and Southern Cal. There's also a big game Monday as well. So just kind of rolling down the schedule for tonight at 5 o'clock. Howard will take on Rutgers. There, Coach Schiano at Rutgers, 36.5-point favorite there. An in-state game, Western Carolina will go over to NC State. These are big line games, 32.5 right there. Wake Forest will be at home taking on North Carolina A&T. The line there for Wake Forest is 35. You know that Ole Miss has to travel to Wake Forest during the year, so I'm sure a lot of Ole Miss fans will have their eye on that game and see what they'll run into there. New Hampshire is taking on Gus Malzahn and UCF. They got the Arkansas quarterback as the transfer there, and so the line there is 40 in that particular game. Jackson State will take on UM Monroe, Lafayette, Buffalo, Fordham, Bowling Green, Central Connecticut, Central Michigan. The Razorbacks of Arkansas will take on Arkansas Pine Bluff. I was at Little Rock for 6 years. Pine Bluff, about 30, 40 minutes from Little Rock. Be very, very difficult game for Pine Bluff. Obviously there, just the resources and all between those two schools. That's why your line there is 48.5. So, I don't know if Arkansas will take it easy on those guys or what there, but sometimes you can't help but run up the score. Murray State, Coach Josh Wright here at Tuscaloosa Academy, his brother is the head coach at Murray State. It's his first year there, and the line is 40. It was 40, so I think it's going up to 48. They go to Missouri. Now, Missouri's Coach Drinkowitz, he took exception to what Nick Saban said, Chase, on Saturday when Coach Saban said that Missouri had the easiest schedule of everyone in the SEC, and he reeled off all the games that they have and says that, he does not think that's easy at all there. So he kind of bit back at Coach a little bit about that. I'm sure Coach didn't mean anything by that. We'll see how Missouri plays tonight. Missouri will be coming to Tuscaloosa this year. So that game is on the SEC Network tonight at 7 o'clock. So this is a 3 TV night, Chase. So Dad's got 3 TVs. I've got 3 upstairs. So a lot of times when you have 3 TVs on at once, you don't see anything. So I probably just stay on my porch and watch it. Here's an interesting game. Row the Boat. Fox, North Carolina. New quarterback there at North Carolina travels to row the boat to Minnesota. North Carolina 2-point favorite over in Minnesota. I'll be glad you're playing that game in August and not later on when it's so cold there at Minnesota. But that will be interesting on Fox. So that's a must-see game. Here's the game I want to see, Chase. North Dakota State takes on Colorado. North Dakota State's one of those really, really good Division I AA teams. They're very hard to play. The line has kind of fluctuated. Yesterday it was 10. The money must be pouring in on North Dakota State because it has gone down to 9.5. A lot of talk about Colorado's program. A lot of attention there with maybe for the wrong reasons with Coach Deion Sanders there. Banning a guy from asking questions from CBS over in Denver. A lot of people kind of are tired of Deion's act, and they're really pulling against Colorado tonight. So that game will be on ESPN. I look forward to watching that game. CBS Sports tonight will be 2:21 on DirecTV if you have that. This is an interesting game. Coastal Carolina goes to Jacksonville State here. Coastal Carolina has been really good in the past. Coach Rodriguez has done a terrific job at Jacksonville State. They're a 3-point favorite there at home against Coastal Carolina. So I would look for Jacksonville State to probably cover that line. So a pretty good in-state game there. Also, Alcorn State will travel up to UAB. My eyes are bad. Alcorn State is a 26-point underdog there. That game would be on ESPN Plus. Tulane, a lot of people think very highly of Tulane. They will take on Southeast Louisiana tonight. And then Tulsa and Northwestern State, they'll be at home. And so we'll see what happens in some of these games. But plenty of football to watch here, and we can talk about all that tomorrow. I will take this last break. We'll get back and we'll bring Tom in. But Dad will do the Blue Plate Special tomorrow. And that Blue Plate Special is brought to you by our great friend Chuck Norwood over at the RE/MAX of Gulf Shores. If you're looking to buy or sell, the Chuck Norwood team is there to take great care of you for all your real estate needs. They've been serving the coast over there for 33 years, so experience counts. I know Chuck knows that area inside and out, and he can give you the rental history of what it's brought if you want to purchase down there and use that as an investment. Go to chucknorwood.com. You follow him on X at Chuck Bama. Give him a call, 251-948-1212. And we will release the Blue Plate Special tomorrow. So Dad is completely confused. I think he's probably going down into the lab to start studying some more. You listen to Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We're holding up pretty well in the area right now. Now we definitely have our rush to work slows kicking into gear. 69 southbound onto McFarland. You've got a long line of delays, as well as McFarland east and westbound at the 69 Lurleen Wallace intersection. That's also
Lives. The one-day hands-on driving school gives teens experience in car control through exercises that include emergency braking and skid recovery. Find a class near you at TireRack.com/survive.
Road tripping, business travel, or bringing your car in for repairs. All great reasons to rent a Toyota at Tuscaloosa Toyota. You can rent the latest Toyota models for a day, a week, or a weekend. Every Toyota rental car comes with 24 hours roadside.
Or you can shop online at TuscaloosaCDJR.com. At Tuscaloosa Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, you pick it out and we'll work it out. Roll Tide.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partially sunny today. The chance of a few isolated showers or thunderstorms this afternoon or this evening. The high today 97, tonight's low 74. Tomorrow morning sunshine, isolated storms by afternoon. The high 95. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Two-time state champion and two-time NIT champion Barry Sanderson breaks down the latest in sports on Inside the Locker Room on Tide 100.9.
Come back to Inside the Locker Room. I get right to the Yellowwood hotline. Get Tom in. Hey, Tom.
Barry, good morning. What's wrong with Coach?
Nothing. He just had he's been on the whole time. He just had something he had to do this morning at 8:45. I'm sure something with my mom there to take care of her. So, but he'll be back tomorrow with the blue plate. I think JC confused him. I think JC confused him. So he hadn't climbed back down that lab and beat himself up over it and figure out which direction he's going. Because he takes it hard, Tom.
Oh, yeah.
He takes this thing serious. I know people think we're joking around, but he wants to hit it. I promise you that.
I agree. And he's competitive. I like that.
Yeah.
He's serious about everything he does. I love that.
No doubt. What you got this morning?
Well, I was going to tell you how much I enjoyed Mr. Ford being on this morning and talking about his podcast. I look forward to going in there and catching up on those that he's already done, and I thought that was good.
Yeah, I think it's a different angle, you hear about who should start and and Tommy knows a lot. He's got a lot everybody likes Tommy. I've already gotten people messaging me now, thanking me for having him on, that they've already downloaded to listen to the podcast. And I want to hear next week's when they talk about that Tide Pride coming in. I hope he tells some stories about maybe some of the phone calls he got of angry people about their having to pay extra for their seats there, because that's a tough thing to do, Tom.
Yeah, I remember when it happened, and I remember it was a lot of talk, that was going around when that happened. But anyway, I wanted to call in and tell you I enjoyed it. And thank you for having him on. That was a good idea.
Yeah, well, Tommy, I had reached out to him before, and he actually reached out to me, and so I'm glad we had him on. I think Alabama fans will enjoy that very much. So, anyway, thank you, Tom.
Yeah. All right, have a good weekend.
You too. All right. Also today, over in East Lake, the golf gets started. Justin Thomas obviously has probably no shot to win this thing, but he did find out on his way back that he did qualify. I thought I should have asked Tom, where Scheffler was kind of a little bit complaining. Like, obviously, he's had the best year. And so I guess whoever wins this will get the big money. Now, they've made a ton of money, he and Xander Schauffele. But I thought I read this morning where the winner gets $25 million. Is that right, Chase? I thought I saw, maybe it's a $25 million purse that they will spread out. I think the winner does get 16, maybe to 18 million there for the one tournament. Only 30 guys in the tournament over there. So the tee times are listed, so they're already staggered there based on what place you're in. But a lot of times the guy that's 10 under doesn't win this thing, to be quite honest with you. So we'll see if how this thing turns out. But interesting that they choose to play this with college football starting this weekend. What did you find out on the money? You see anything on the money? I know it's a bigger purse than most. Maybe it's 30 guys spending $25 million.
Yeah, I see it's $25 million. Another one I see it's $20 million. So that's like in that range.
Yeah. So, but I know the winner's going to make a pile of money, the bulk of that money there. So we'll see what happens over there. It's always a fun time over in Atlanta. All right, that's it for today's show. We'll get out of here. We'll make way for the Gary Harris. We'll be back with you tomorrow bright and early at 7 a.m. to get you ready for game day. I always like it. The motorhomes start to roll in. You can always just kind of tell a different, the air's different here in Tuscaloosa on Friday of a game. So I know the people will be flowing in the Tuscaloosa, so enjoy it. Don't forget going out to eat. If you go out to eat, you're going to wait for hours. Chase, I don't know if you knew that, but if you want to go somewhere to dinner and go early tonight, after that it's over for you. That's it. The Gary Harris Show is next, so keep it locked in. You listen to Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC. It's the home of Alabama sports. Have a great day, everybody.